Hello friends, I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's all fantastic and great and wonderful. Today here, it's nice. It's not raining. There's sunshine and it's not, the humidity isn't trying to murder me. And I might actually take the motorcycle out later, which is something I haven't done in over a week. Looking forward to that. But today I want to talk about manga. I have a bunch of manga here. This is a small subset of the manga that is now in my house. And I'm curious to know if you read manga or if you're interested in reading manga, because I am a member of the Rolling Dice and Taking Names community. If you don't know who Rolling Dice and Taking Names are, Marty and Tony have a podcast about board games, and they very rarely talk about board games. That's not true. They talk about games and food and Southern food, because they're Southern gentlemen, and video games, that sort of stuff. But Marty has been recently talking a good bit about manga, and we have decided, or I'm not part of this at all, have decided to start a manga book club. And we are getting ready to read our first book, which is Remina by Junji Ito. And apparently Junji is a horror author, and I've never read any of his works. We were deciding between Remina and Uzumaki, and I just bought both, because I've heard that this guy is like, modern Lovecraft. And so I'm really interested in these. But those are kind of like one-off titles, and that's not really like, manga is a Japanese comic that is usually an ongoing series, and I've read a few of those, or in the past, like 15 or so years ago, there was a few titles that I picked up whenever I could find them, but manga wasn't really super duper popular yet, and I guess it's only really become popular in the last 6 months to a year here in the US. It's become extremely popular. Now when I go to the bookstore, what used to be this tiny little section is now like this, wide, full-length shelf of manga. And so M has been buying a lot. We have a lot of manga in this house right now. It has taken over a couple of shelves on our bookshelf, and she's been reading like multiple books a day for the last couple of months. And I picked up a couple just to try out. Attack on Titan I heard was really good. And the funny thing is, when I heard of the Attack on Titan, I heard of Attack on Titan years ago. I assumed it was like Titan the moon, Jupiter's moon, and so I thought it was a sci-fi title, and I'm generally not interested in sci-fi. What I have discovered is that Attack on Titan is more like a modern fantasy, Walking Dead type, post-apocalyptic type thing, where there's these giant titans wandering around the earth, and we are the last of humanity, walled up in cities that are, trying to keep the defenses up to keep these titans out, and some people are going to go try to take out some of these titans. So this has been an interesting read. I bought the first 5. I haven't finished the first one. I started to read it one night and I ended up falling asleep, and I've just forgotten to pick it back up because I've been doing so much game design lately. I got Moriarty the Patriot because I love Sherlock Holmes, and so this is a book that focuses on Moriarty being a child, and well, it starts off as him as a child. I think he's an adult by the time the story kicks off, like for real, but he was an orphan and picked up by the Moriarty family, and then, I didn't like it that much. It was okay, but it really, it's this, super over-the-top caste society in London, and it really digs into that, and I just don't really feel like it's, I guess, not realistic is the word I'm looking for. The way that the characters are treated in here is really kind of awkward and weird, and it just doesn't, it seems more like the author has taken Japanese imperialism, like that, the imperialist times, and put it in London and made. I just don't feel like it doesn't work that well for me. And the last one was M got me H.P. Lovecraft's The Hound and Other Stories, which is I didn't know Dark Horse did manga, but this is Dark Horse manga, and I like it. It's very different from traditional Japanese manga. Like, the illustrations in here are much more detailed and richly done. One of the nice things about manga that I didn't know really until I started thinking about it recently is the art is kind of rushed, because these are generally put out like a chapter a week, and you know, there's a weekly magazine that these would go in, and so they're kind of just jamming through this stuff. And I actually really liked the rush artwork style, and it's really obvious in Attack on Titan. It's a super rush artwork style. Even Moriarty has a slightly better style. And the one-offs like Remina and Uzumaki I've got here, the art in these is much different. It's much more richly done. It's much more filled out than a lot of it. But what I'm curious to know is, have you read manga? Do you read manga? I am looking for other non-shonen titles. Shonen being a manga that's geared towards young boys, and it's generally involves like superhero type characters, or, you know, kind of crass characters. I'm interested in more of the adult, maybe even horror, or just twisted history type stories. I don't really remember what I used to read, but I know that I had some that were like German themed, like kind of set around World War II type stuff that I enjoyed, and I don't really remember them at all. But I know that they were much more adult than some of the stuff that we have currently. We also read Blood on the Tracks. Me and Em read Blood on the Tracks. We've read all the way up to the most current one, and that's a very interesting story. It doesn't really have any of the traditional, like, over-the-top action and quirkiness that typically comes with manga. It's a much more sedate story about a child escaping his mom. I'm just going to say that. So, let me know if you have titles that you recommend. I'd love to hear them. If you'd love to hear any... Should I do reviews on these? I don't know. I really don't know. We are obviously going to be doing like a group talk on Remina, so if you're interested in following along, pick up Remina, jump on over to the Rolling Dice and Taking Names Discord. I'll put a link in the description down below, and you can hang out with us when we talk about Remina. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again Monday. Today's word you should know to sound smart is haute couture. It is a noun meaning highly fashionable clothing and the cutting edge of the latest design fads and trends. Haute couture should be fun, foolish, and almost unwearable. Christian Lacroix, a French fashion designer. Haute couture. H-A-U-T-E-C-O-U-T-U-R-E. I would have pronounced that haute couture, not haute couture. I guess, is that a French thing? Like, you just haute, H-A-U is an O sound? That's what the pronunciation key says. I don't know French.